Remember that one trans influencer that was on a singular Bud Light can that moved discourse for an entire month where Republicans were shooting at Bud Light cans? That was weird. That is what we mean when we say y'all are weird. And I'm glad the Democratic Party is finally listening to that. The 5 is reacting. Hogwatch. Wait, they're doing a reaction stream? Bro, they're trying to be me so bad. It's crazy.
Laid out a plan to break up the Supreme Court and then told a lot of great stories from the 70s. You had something you wanted to say before he so rudely interrupted you, Brian Kilmeade.
Well, I just think he just made the Supreme Court even more political if it's indeed possible. And he brings up Project 25 and
okay, he said Brian kill me. I'm not kidding.
John Roberts, the Supreme Court justice, saved Obamacare. And I just think he had opportunity to balance it out. But it's a campaign speech that he was probably going to make only.
He definitely said Brian kill me, right?
This great leader of the future probably wasn't in the original copy that he was going to say last week because he dropped out on Sunday. It's a little disappointing, but now the Supreme Court's going to be dragged through it. And I think that every time these Supreme Court justices, instead of walking around with pride, they're going to walk around feeling like they're a target.
And I just want to say something about it too. I mean, he started this. He talked about fundamental fairness, and you know that they're going to undermine the.
His name is Brian Kilmeade, not Brian Kill Me. That's the joke. That's why I say Brian Kill Me, Brian Kill Myself, as a substitute. When I want to say similar things, maybe I say, "Oh, I'm Brian Kill Me."
This guy just says one thing.
He gave his eulogy.
Yeah, he gave his eulogy. And then the other thing, they keep talking about making sure that these Supreme Court justices have an ethics guideline.
Wait, you guys,
do my air staff.
Wait, you guys literally thought his name was Brian Kill Me? Oh my God, I'm so irresponsible with my platform. I've cultivated an entire generation of people accidentally saying Arkansas, jalapeno poppers. You know what I mean? And now thinking that the name is actually Brian Kill Me. A lot of you motherfuckers probably say Obabe, or not Obabe, sorry, Brandon. Like all of these like different things I say as a joke. You might do Obama or Obama, but more importantly, you probably say Brandon. I never refer to Joe Biden as Joe Biden anymore. I always refer to him as Brandon. It's kind of crazy.
Agenda couldn't get any more ridiculous. The party rallying behind Kamala Harris by leaning into the word weird to attack Donald Trump and his running mate, J.D. Vance. And apparently,
come on, Janine, tell us how not weird you are.
Against Trump if she were ever to face him on the debate stage.
Well, it's just plain weird.
Oh, they hate it. Oh, this is good.
That's the box you put that in, right?
It's not just a weird style that he brings. It's that this leads to weird policies.
That is weird behavior.
More extreme, more weird, more erratic.
I mean, on the other side, they're just weird.
The 32 ounces of weird.
Donald Trump and his weirdo running mate.
And by the way, they are weird.
It is bizarre. It's weird. It is weird.
J.D. Vance, just dumb Vance, is pretty weird.
J.D. Vance, brushing off the attack, says, keep him coming.
Doesn't hurt my feelings. Look, the price of admission, meaning the price of getting to serve the people of this country, is the Democrats are going to attack us with everything that they have. I think it's an honor.
And the media's honeymoon with Kamala is far from over. New York Magazine is out with this cover of Harris and her Democrat cheerleaders titled, Welcome to Camelot. Camelot. All right. Okay, so I'll start with you, Brian. They're changing. I mean, we were extremist, we were radical, and now we're just weird. Why are they softening the terminology when we needed to be deprogrammed? We were a cult. Now we're weird.
I could give my opinion. I'm not sure what's behind it. I wasn't in part of that think tank. But I will say this. The whole democracy is at stake was not working. But saying that Donald Trump and he's going to overthrow democracy wasn't working. Trying to put him in jail.
That's not true.
It
was a very successful landing. It was a very successful line of attack.
Yeah, so let's make him weird. And I thought that Donald Trump Jr. put out a couple of videos that said, I'll give you weird. Kamala Harris giving her pronouns before a big speech to Chris Cuomo before a major thing. And to talk about some of her stances when it comes to AOC, saying that we should start taxing people 80%. She's like, you know what? That's a good, innovative idea. That's kind of weird. Also, I think outside Jesse, most of us are weird. Most of us,
Jesse.
yeah, outside Jesse, most of us have a little bit of thing that's a little non-traditional. And I think by calling people weird, that'll make them more relatable.
Is this
No.
Dana, a part of their effort to appeal to Gen Z because, you know, they may buy into that?
Yeah.
No.
Maybe.
This is literally, dude, no. This is actually an
What I
appeal
think
to the
is weird
suburbs.
is not thinking for yourself and just listening to the bat signal and saying, okay, today we call them weird. Got it. And then everybody does it. I think it's so bizarre. I'd rather just think for myself. I also think that it's amorphous language. It's like, well, weird can be good, right? I guess. But I've also thought online it's been pretty interesting to say J.D. Vance is weird. And then you click on the picture and it's some like craziness on the left. So I don't know where this is all going. I think that both sides are trying to land on how they want to define each other now because the race is different.
Well, could it be, Jesse, that people are just tired of the name calling and
I'm not tired of it. I love the name calling, Judge, and I like laughing, but I guess we're going to have to go with, what's the new one? Crazy? It's hard to keep up with, but these are good. Listen, I think probably November 6th, the Democrats are going to look back at this landslide shellacking that they just got handed and think, why did I waste 3 days in late July calling the Trump people weird? The only way Kamala Harris has a shot
because the policy prescriptions and the positions you have are gross.
from Joe Biden.
They're gross. On social issues, you guys are weird as
because there's nowhere.
you literally are not even remotely interested in like running a competent administration, a competent campaign. Yeah. You think they'll start saying Holocaust Harris is a super last ditch effort? Oh my God. Maybe.
When I saw
Probably
Trump
not.
demolish Joe Biden for 90 minutes, I didn't see him weird. When I saw Trump go like this, fight after surviving a bullet, I didn't think weird. Most people don't see Donald Trump.
That's not what they're talking about, big
We
dog.
can play it all day. Look at the Biden White House. You got cocaine, you got rabid dogs, you got secret Parkinson's doctors, you have Dylan all up in that place. It's political projection.
Dylan?
They leaked something. Trump was going to call her weird.
Who's Dylan? Oh, do you mean Dylan Mulvaney? Thank you for proving the point. There you go. Thank you for proving the point. That's precisely what people mean when they say, oh, remember that one trans influencer that was on a singular Bud Light can? Remember that one trans influencer that was on a singular Bud Light can that moved discourse for an entire month where Republicans were shooting at Bud Light cans? Remember? That was weird. That is what we mean when we say y'all are weird. And I'm glad the Democratic Party is finally listening to that. Let's see what my liberal darling has to say.
A very good week in terms of coverage, but she's just flat out had a good week. She's done really effective rallies, her team of surrogates, and that's where weird comes from. It comes from Governor Tim Walz from Minnesota, who has a very plain speaking way about him, and he was giving an interview, and he said they're just weird, and then it caught on from there. And I think that people are sick of the vitriol. They are sick of hearing that it's the end of the earth if X thing happens. People did live through 4 years of Donald Trump and came out the other side of it.
Walt started their weird narrative, and it's good.
Don't feel that he's the existential
well, let's be
threat.
real. It's not Waltz that started it. I would say that myself, the Chapo boys, like we've been saying this for years. And Waltz is the guy who, the first time I've seen like a Democrat in a position of power actually utilize that language and deploy it against the Republican
Trump
Party.
supporter. The late great
We have
Hannibal
literally,
Lecter
like normal
doesn't
people that
resonate.
are not in the Democratic Party have been saying this for quite some
About
time.
batteries. Like, Donald Trump is not a normal human, and I guess it's only Jesse that is normal in all of this.
Should we like
but,
pull up the tapes of Kamala Harris and
but you can
space
play that
and
game,
weird? I mean, I just think that
but it's
You want to talk batteries?
But if you-
I mean, you guys
I don't
spent
wanna talk
$10
batteries.
trillion.
I wanna-
You installed 8. That's weird.
what I want to talk
That's
about
not what's weird.
is that
That's weird.
whatever the strategy is now, it is
No, weird is like you saying they brought Dylan to the White House and assuming that people know what that is. And some people will know what that is. We know what that is because we're brain rotted. Like I'm clued in on what the these guys talk about on a regular basis. I watch their shit all the time. That's why I know how weird the Republicans are. Bro just name dropped a singular trans TikToker from 8 months ago by her first name. That's it. Not even like her last name. Just said Dylan in the White House. Okay. And the expectation is that like, that's how hyper folk. Oh, dude.
Mocking
Wait, let's continue.
Christians and the Last
Let's continue.
Supper. Here
Show
we
us
go.
how weird you are more. Culture. Show us how weird you are with this culture war shit, dude. Oh, they're mocking Christians by doing artistic demonstrations. We want to ban them? Go ahead. Make my day, dude. Okay? The Republicans forgot that their like worst policy positions are just genuinely gross. And like, you're supposed to do dog whistles, dumbass. I think Donald Trump unshackled that to a certain degree, but he at least has like he is telegenic enough and charismatic enough to the base to be able to carry that conversation. But when you guys do it too analytically. You do it too critically. You do it in a way where you're too nerdy about it. You're doing the Elizabeth Warren style, JD Vance style, Ron DeSantis style, like, let me show you how the sausage is made about the racist process that I go through in order to advocate for the horrifying things that I advocate for. And people, when they see that, when they scratch the surface and see what's underneath it, they go, ew, that's gross. This is why the Democrats are finally calling what Republicans are doing weird. Okay? It's a really good way to you know, basically say you guys are being fucking racist without saying the word, or you're being really transphobic without saying the word, because if you go, oh, you're transphobic, then it alludes to the hysterical, like, blue-haired social justice warrior tropes. But when you just say it's weird, you're like a normal person, and many other normal people also feel this way, right? And it's a positive way to reframe the conversation. It's positive for the Democrats. It's a strong way to reframe the conversation without immediately being like, ooh, that's racist, ooh, that's bigoted, ooh, that's whatever. You're disarming them. Because there's a immediate, you know, multiple centuries backed retort for when someone says you're racist. White people hate being called racist, okay? Especially when they have racist ass opinions. They think it's worse than being, they think it's certainly worse than saying the N-word, right? But when you say they're being weird, it's a little different. It's new. They're like, wait, maybe I also kind of feel like these guys are being gross. Even if they technically agree with the broader ideological positions, this is what I've been trying to explain to people. There is a level of permissible misogyny and permissible racism, right, that is broadly popular in the Republican Party's base of support. That's why Lee Atwater talked about not being able to say the N-word post-civil rights movement and changing the discourse around other things, policy positions that basically dog whistle, that put black people on a worse position overall that white people will definitely vote on. These guys unshackled the dog whistles. They're doing bullhorns. And yeah, Trump to a certain degree is good at making that work, especially with respect to like immigration, especially when there isn't a solid counter narrative on that immigration front, then they can get away with it. But on these other issues, especially on abortion, especially on issues that pertain to women's bodily autonomy, the moment that you come across as misogynistic, the moment that you come across like you're restrictive on what women want to do, the moment that you lean into the Handmaid's Tale or Handmaid's Tale, whatever the fuck it's called, the Handmaid's Tale narrative, and say, no, we do want to do that, you're basically making the rest of the country look at you and go, that's odd, bro. Why are you doing that?
Age, and they haven't had the ability, like for instance, Jazz Jennings can never have kids. Jazz Jennings also, and this probably part of your studies, can't actually feel any sexual feeling of any kind.
Do you have any idea how weird this sounds right now? Like, why are you obsessing with a stranger's genital pleasure? That's so weird. That's so bizarre.
That was very weird yourself.
You guys are all weird.
No. So I'm talking about adults who engage in activities, which is a large portion of the global economy, whether you like it or not.
Sure.
Sex sells, they say. And when I say this person will never have this ability, you go, how weird is that?
It's weird for you to fixate on a stranger's genital pleasure. That's...
Yeah, it is. Dude, I've been riding this wave. I've been riding this wave for years. I'm so glad that this is becoming more prominent in terms of like how to deal with these freaks. Oh, it's so good. He's like, no, you're weird. It's normal to care about someone's genital pleasures. Go ahead, dude. Make that argument. Make that the most prominent display for your campaigning. Okay? Go ahead. Double down on that shit. Double down on that shit. Here it is. There it is.
Zeroed in on a very...
Like, the question I used to ask Republicans in the first couple of years of the Trump administration, the trans administration. See, I got trans on the mind. The first couple of years in the Trump administration, I would ask Republicans all the time. Back then, I used to debate them, right? Like on Discord. One of the questions I would ask them is like, have you seen tangible benefits to your life now that Trump is in office? Or do you still have the same old material problems? Okay. Did the pothole down the road get fixed? Did life become more affordable? Do you feel like you make more money now? No, none of those things changed. They just duped you into voting for them by, bringing up this narrative. That's it. That's it. That's literally it. That's all they do. And many people actually came to terms with that reality. They recognized it. They were like, all right, well, yeah, maybe a lot of the stuff that actually impacts my life are not being changed, because Republicans use that as a previously very successful mechanism, and now increasingly becoming less successful mechanism to get voters to vote for them. Okay? Like, if you laser in on this shit, ironically enough, they could just take advantage of like the unaffordability crisis and Biden inflation, but they still can't stop themselves from leaning on this dumb shit. Okay? They cannot stop themselves from just being like, no, we got to eviscerate every trans people. It's like, it's 0.01% of the population, dude. Like, what do you think you're going to do if you quote unquote deal with it? If you, in the words of Michael Knowles, eradicate transgenderism, like, what do you get in that? What do you get in that situation? You get nothing. Your life didn't change. You just killed a bunch of trans people. Okay. Like, do you understand? It's insane. Yeah. You got dead family members and a bunch of people who are upset. You just did something unimaginably cruel and unimaginably immoral, unimaginably violent, and you got no benefit. You're just doing harm for no reason.
Very, very effective attack vector against Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris.
Oh, they're going to do that. They're going to keep doing like the trans panic shit.
Will now have to answer for the idea that that teachers in California are not allowed to tell parents when their kids are medically transitioning. So let's pretend you are a 6th grade teacher in Orange County, California, in Huntington Beach, California. You're a 6th grade teacher, and a kid begins to identify as Steve instead of Susie. As a 6th grade teacher in Huntington Beach, California, you are not allowed to call up the parent. You are not allowed to notify the parent. This is pure, unadulterated Marxism.
Bro, I'm not gonna lie. If the parent is oblivious to their children being trans, like, they're bad parents. Like, what are we talking about here? Like, what do you mean? State interference must occur here. Like, no, it's like, it's supposed to be protective. Good luck explaining that to, like, obviously the broadest subsects of American population. You can't. But like, what the fuck are we talking about? Did he say Marxism? Yeah, this is a fundamental plank of Marxism.
This is pure, unadulterated Marxism. The destruction of the nuclear family as we know it, where parents are no longer even allowed to know that their kids are being called by different names, receiving medical treatments. Kamala Harris is in favor of this. Kamala Harris and her gang of California radicals and mobsters have been pushing for the state to have more power than...
Yeah, he said medically transition, which is impossible without parental consent and prior knowledge. Like, what are we talking about? How does he think this works? You think just one day, all of a sudden, you have Hunter Schafer, that's your daughter. Okay? One day you're like, what the f just happened? Is that how that works? Just like a wand, like a switch just flips and then boom, gender, Marxist gender, pure, unadulterated Marxist gender happened.
Then parents. President Trump exploited this and attacked it. And every Christian in the country, you better understand that if Kamala Harris becomes president, she will nationalize this California law and make it so that the state can kidnap your child under trans-related...
That's not the law. The law is teachers can notify. They don't have to.
...issues. Kamala Harris seeks to kidnap your child via the trans agenda.
Bro, this is crazy. Like, Okay. Charlie Kirk just said this unironically. I made a joke about Republicans attacking Kamala Harris on this front like 4 years ago. And now they are unironically doing it. That's awesome. That's just great. They can't help themselves. No. You misunderstood. I said, F your feelings. My feelings are very important and must be handled gently, like a tiny baby hummingbird. This whole their weird argument from the Democrats is dumb and juvenile. This is a presidential election, not a high school prom queen contest. It's also a tad ironic coming from the party that preaches diversity and inclusion. Win on policy if you can, but cut the crap, please. Bookmarking this for future use. To bully someone, you mean grow up? This you? Bro, big ass F-word piece of shit. Like, that's awesome. And that's from 58 minutes ago, too. Like, he popped off on that. That's great. Huh. Do you see Turkey might invade Israel? Yeah, right. All right, let's go back to the hogwash thing. I, for one, am a little worried. I will admit. I, for one, am a little worried. I'm not going to lie. That hogwash is becoming more normalized. I don't like that much. I feel like they're taking my toys away. Okay. In some respects, I'm like, okay, that's great. Like, I'm glad that, the Democrats are actually like fighting back a little bit. Having said that, however, this is my thing. I'm a bit of a hipster on this front.
Alex Castellanos, one of the brightest political commentators I know, and he's made the point that the burden on the vice president is to prove to the American people that she's a serious person. Margaret Thatcher didn't giggle. Golda Meir didn't giggle. When you look at the polls, fair or not, many Americans, and again, this may not be fair, but I'm just telling you what the polls show. Many Americans think that the vice president is a little bit of a ding-dong, that she's not serious.
This ding-dong, Senator, has risen in the polls, and I'm wondering if the strategy to focus on her laugh or the former president calling her nasty and crazy really promotes that push to show she's not up to the job. Does it look petty? Does it say to judge her on this level looks like a strategy that could backfire on Republicans? By all means, get her on the issues that matter, like you talked about abortion, to clarify what this Supreme Court push might be about.
Two books that have been much discussed. All Boys Aren't Blue. And I will quote from it. I put some on and got him on his knees. And I began.
Clean version? Oh, this sucks. Bro, you can't do the clean version of this. The whole point is it's not clean. You know what I'm saying? Hold on here. Listen.
Thank you, Mr. All boys aren't blue. And I will quote from it. I put some lube on and got him on his knees. And I began to slide into him from behind. I pulled out of him and kissed him while he masturbated. He asked me to turn over while he slipped a condom on himself. This was my ass, and I was struggling to imagine someone inside me. He got on top and slowly inserted himself into me. It was the worst pain I think I have ever felt in my life. Eventually, I felt a mix of pleasure with the pain. Close quote. All Boys Aren't Blue. The second is another much discussed book. I'm sure you're familiar with it. It's called Genderqueer. Okay? Let me read an excerpt from that. Quote, I got a new strap-on harness today. I can't wait to put it on you. It will fit my favorite dildo perfectly. You're going to look so hot. I can't wait to have your cock in my mouth. I'm going to give you the blowjob of your life. Then I want you inside of me.
There are a litany of different artistic depictions of a multitude of different parts of the human condition, readily available in public libraries for anyone who wants to consume it. The idea that you would turn around and find these excerpts to read them out loud publicly in an attempt to try and justify banning books in general is insane. Okay? Public libraries, school libraries, who gives a okay? That's it. Straight up. I'll stand by that all day, every day. Making this a prominent, pivotal part of your campaigning is so insane to me. And yet, that's what the Republicans do. It's odd. Yeah, I mean, how many public libraries have Song of Ice and Fire on the shelves or 50 Shades? Exactly. 50 Shades of Grey. Or any, like Game of Thrones is the most popular. Game of Thrones is the most popular HBO show of all time. Okay? Its books are readily available in school libraries. There are depictions of sexual acts, both gay and even incestuous. There are depictions of rape in books that we read for middle school and high school. Literally, like A Tree Grows in Brooklyn. I can't remember now because my memory is awful. There are depictions of that shit in the Bible. And this guy is going, dude, what are you doing? You can't be reading any of this stuff. There's depictions of murder. To Kill a Mockingbird is an American classic. Yeah. And no, genderqueer was not on the reading list for kids, on the NEA summer reading list for kids. It's on the recommended reading list for educators, adults, so they understand gender and sexuality better. The National Education Association and Teachers Union recommended it to educators as summer reading, not to the kids. And this isn't the depiction that he's reading from anyway. But it is what it is, you know? People just set this narrative. Atlas Shrugged is mostly just 200 pages of people having sex businessly. This is their second Bible.
But to focus on this other stuff just looks dumb.
Well, what I was going to say, Neil, if I could finish my thought, when you look at the polls, fair or not, what the polls, the crosstabs show, is that those Americans who have an opinion of the vice president think that, number one, she's a bit of a ding-dong, and number two, that she is a member of the loon wing of the Democratic Party. She's a San Francisco
that member of the loon wing.
Yeah. Mr. If you have a problem with the police, call a crackhead. The ding-dong and the loonies. Mr. Depictions of getting the ass and receiving a blowjob, read it out loud and did a softcore audiobook readout in Congress is over here being like, they're ding-dongs.
Senator, that I'm not, casting aspersions either way, though. That member of the loon wing is now, dead even with Donald Trump in one battle state ground after another. Now, I'm not saying that might last. I am saying that this loon is surging, and if the Republican approach to her is to treat her like a loon and a cackle, and she is just an empty suit, I wonder how far that'll go.
Well, I'm sorry if that offends you, Neil, but I'm just telling you what the people of America think.
I'm just telling you what the polls are showing right now. Now, if you think they're short-lived, they're not going to last, and you're okay with this approach of talking about her laugh and nasty and disrespectful and all this stuff that Donald Trump has said, you don't think part of that is going to kill you at the polls?
I'm telling you what I think the American people think right now, based on the polling that I've seen, and let me say it again. I think that fair or not, and it may upset you, but fair or not, the American people think, those who have an opinion of the vice president think that, number one, she's a little bit of a ding-dong. She's not a serious person. They've had one vegetable in chief. They don't want to know. She believes in strength, our national security strength through weakness, that if we just sit down with our enemies and have a cup of hot cocoa and give them a hug, that they'll be nice to us.
The accent right there, Louisiana. All right. The chatter that was asking said, not American. What kind of beautiful accent is this Senator John Kennedy presenting here? And it's Louisiana, baby.
I don't know if she suggested the cup of hot coffee. You know, you raised a number of very clear issues, substantive issues that could be debated. I guess all I'm saying, for all the problems and calling her a loon and all that, and I get it. I know it's political season and that happens on both sides. Do you
I didn't call her a loon, Neil. You're putting words in my mouth. I said she's a
ding dong. I didn't call her a loony. I said she's a ding dong and a loon. I didn't say loony. I said loon.
She's a member of the loon wing of the Democratic Party, and there is a loon wing of the Democratic Party.
What's the difference between the loon wing and being a loon? The only reason why I'm saying it is, if that is so, and you have a lot of American people who have now taken another look at her, and maybe it's short-lived, to your point, Senator, she is running even with Donald Trump, and I'm just wondering about the approach you're taking, and it's very artful, don't get me wrong, and you raise a lot of substantive issues. It's going to come back to bite your hinds, isn't it? Aren't you concerned about that?
I'm telling you what I think the American people think. It may not be what I think, and it may not be what you think, but this is Washington.
Then what do you think the polls that shows that she's running even with Donald Trump, regardless of what either you or I think?
Well, the polls that I have seen, the most recent polls, you can't just look at the top lines, Neil. You've got to look at the crosstabs. And if you look at the crosstabs,
they're saying she's a loon. A loony, a Looney Tune, Looney and Tooney. That's what they're saying. The crosstabs are saying this. Let me tell you what the crosstabs are saying. They're saying she's a ding dong. 100% of Americans think she's a ding dong.
And really drill down and see what people think. Let me say it again. The polling that I've seen shows that many Americans think that the vice president is not a serious person. As I said, that she's a bit of a ding dong. And number two, that she is a member of the loon wing of the Democratic Party. She's a San Francisco Democrat. She's just like Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez, except without the bartending experience. She is
Ocasio-Cortez.
Do you worry how that? Senator, I'm just
is this the same clip?
Do you worry how that comes across? And maybe you draw no distinction between a female candidate and a male one, and that's fair game. But that this could hurt you with female voters with these type of comments.
Well, let me say it again. The vice president is a candidate for president of the United States. I don't care about her gender, Neil. Maybe you do, but I don't. I don't care about her race. I care about her
Then
competence.
why call her a ding-dong? Why call her a ding-dong?
And I'm telling you what the polling shows. I'm telling you what the polling shows. Right. And it does. And I'll be glad to sit down with you and walk you through the polls.
Please do, because I never know when it's constructive to call people names, Senator. I just, on the left or the right. But
I'm sorry if it hurts your feelings, but let me.
I want to see the ding-dong poll, dude. We gotta see the ding dong poll. You don't understand. I saw the polls. 98% of Americans say Kamala is a ding dong. They were polled on it.
Let me say it again.
Senator, you keep bringing it back to my feelings. My feelings matter a little. All I'm telling you is if you think you can gain this November calling people names, I don't know how far that goes, left or right, but we'll see. It's still early, to your point.
Your feelings seem to me like they matter to you a lot, Neil, and I'm trying to be objective here. Let me say it again.
Are you?
That's so funny to be like, I'm objectively calling her a ding dong and claiming that Americans are calling her objectively a ding dong. You can say it again, over and over again.
Really being objective, Senator? I just think you've got a bash-a-thon, a name calling at her. If you call that being objective, I don't know. But Senator, I do want to thank you for coming.
Well, thank you for having me, Neil. I hope you have a better day.
Yeah, so do I. Hope you have a better day. We'll have more after that.
I mean, Fox News, but yeah, that's Neil Cavado. It's not like, it's early. It's early in the day. Okay? That's different. You have to remember, this is like, Fox News polls are reliable and solid, and Fox News reporting earlier in the day is also like it's like closer to like a normal news broadcast with obvious right-wing leanings. The other guy that was like that is obviously Chris Wallace was another guy like that on Fox News, Chris Wallace, and then he left. Also here's Newsmax having a wonderful time with the JD Vance stuff.
Using that term weird, by the way, we continue to point that out. Kamala HQ, that's her campaign on X, just put out 3 minutes ago.
Dude, I feel like when someone calls Twitter X, I'm not kidding. I feel like it reveals a lot about like what their worldview is. You know what I mean? Is a red flag. Like there's a pretty high likelihood that you're talking to a conservative. I have been fortunate enough not to see a single person, by the way, okay, not to be around a single person who unironically calls it X.
A quote from JD Vance of him saying, "I certainly would like abortion to be illegal nationally," unquote, from JD Vance. They quoted him.
I'm a journalist and our style or prescribed language of things to say is X and it hurts me. I feel like journalists get around that though by being like X, formerly known as Twitter, in parentheses. Or maybe that's the style Bible of certain outlets. But I always see that. They won't just like let it be X. They'll always put in parentheses, formerly known as Twitter. Some style guys have switched to just X now. Dude, don't give up. Don't give up on it. Don't do it.
Now I got it.
All right, let's finish this.
Him on that, the Harris campaign, and calling it, "This is weird behavior." Weird, weird, weird. Everything about, again, Vance is weird. Does Vance actually have a problem? And then how about the campaigning using that term weird for Republicans? Using that term.
Do they have a problem? Trump Jr. said tweets were referring to it when he was coked out with Vance. JD Vance really made his values clear. He does not see women as equals. Let's see what my goat has to say about JD.
I gotta take a minute to talk about the guy who joined his ticket a couple weeks ago. Oh, you heard of him, did you? JD Vance, yeah. He's really made his values clear lately. He does not see women as equals. He does not want everyone to have a seat at the table. He's scared of us. Because Democrats, we want everyone to have a seat at the table. I mean, even cat lovers and dog lovers alike. Now I got...
The Michigander accent is making my Ohio self feel some kind of way.
Taking home the gold medal for being woke. The spectacle meant to showcase the greatest athletes in the world, according to reports. Instead, featured drag queens appearing to act out scenes from The Last Supper, depicted by Leonardo da Vinci, one of my favorite painters. After viewer backlash and calls to boycott the games,
by the way,
the Olympic YouTube page wiped out from the video page because it was getting pretty roundly criticized. Paris 2024 spokesperson apologized, saying they didn't mean to offend anyone. Data, there's no way they could have watched the rehearsal and thought, this will be perfect.
You mean
for
they
the
didn't
Olympics.
watch that and go, wow, this is weird?
Yeah, probably not.
That's the thing. I also just don't like it that it took away from all the athletes. They've worked so hard their whole lives for this moment. If you think back to the London Olympics, they drew upon, remember they had the Queen parachuting into the opening ceremony with James Bond. They had a Spice Girls reunion. They had Mr. Bean. They had Chariots of Fire. The French have a rich history to draw on. They just didn't use it.
And even Russia and...
Yeah, calling everything woke is also weird. Saying like, oh, they're doing gender. Democrats are doing gender. Democrats are doing woke. Woke culture has ruined society. They're doing gender. Like, yeah, this shit is weird, bro. It's art. Like, stay in your lane. You know what I mean?
Okay, you should take in some of that culture. I mean, listen, am I really shocked that
like no normal person is going to watch this, or no right-wing person is going to watch this and be like, well, my takeaway from this is that it's awesome. Of course they're not. It's just art. It's not supposed to be for you. It's not supposed to be like this like fascist depiction or fascist understanding of art that is supposed to be like completely shackled and completely restricted and whatever the This is not politics. No matter how hard these dipshits try to turn it into politics, it's not, okay?
It was a spectacle, for sure. I watched it. I was very excited by the whole thing. I mean, the Marie Antoinette thing was incredible. It was so fun mocking. No one.
Right.
Shaking
Nothing
your
like
head,
being
Jesse?
I missed that part.
Nothing like a royal being beheaded to lift you up. All right, Judge?
What are you defending Marie Antoinette? What the fuck?
Camaraderie and, you know, how we're all basically in this together. I mean, they're tone deaf. They insulted 2 billion Christians, okay? And, you know, you would think.
Boo, boo, woke. This is like SJW shit. This is real cancel culture. Conservatives love doing this.
And they ended up
killing you insulted conservatives. Nobody gives a okay? Nobody cares. Oh, you're insulting me.
Because they know
I'm
what
Judge
happens.
Janine
Christians
Perot.
turn the
You're
other cheek.
insulting
That are
Christians. Don't
sabotaging
do it.
the Olympics. It's
Right.
not the Christians.
4 rail lines blown up. We
I'm
still don't know
so
what's behind it.
offended as a
The fact is,
Christian.
You'll
Oh.
never know.
I know. We've got to go.
Damn, they have so many ad breaks, dude. They're way worse than me at the top of the hour. At least I only serve you a 3-minute ad break at the top of the hour. These guys literally keep doing every 3 minutes. They keep doing an ad break. You get one ad break with me at the top of the hour, one secret one in the middle of the hour, and honestly, you can avoid it by subscribing. Think about how much better that shit is. CPAP support group, they know their fan base. Paris Olympics organizers say sorry for offense, but insist the opening ceremony did not depict the Last Supper. Who gives a shit? The interpretation of the Greek god Dionysus makes us aware of the absurdity of violence between human beings. Like, who cares about this? What the fuck is wrong with you? I think we should do that a lot more. Like, I think I do it all the time. People get very mad at me. Like, even remember, one of the conversations that I used to have with right-wing conservatives, including with Christian Walker before he turned woke, was when he just got like real gross about trans people. And my first instinct in that moment was to be like, why do you care? Like what are you doing? Like, why are you being weird? Why are you like ruining the vibes? You know what I mean? He's woke now? Not necessarily. He's kind of woke now. Not all the way, but he's a little woke now. Did you guys not know this? And people got mad at me. Remember the famous the famous Catboy yelling sequence happened as a consequence of that, because people, specifically very sweaty debate lords online, interpreted my conversation with Christian in a very negative fashion, where they were like, "Oh, you're getting owned by him because you were calling out how like weird he was about like bringing up trans people for no reason." But that was wasn't Cowboy before that? No, that's after. If you look back, if you go back and watch that debate without like the weird framing from, you know, people like Destiny or Vosh, you will literally see what I was doing there. You will see what I was attempting to do there. That messaging is successful for a broader audience. Okay? Habibi, this is disrespectful to Christians. Why defend it? What? First of all, I don't give a fuck. Okay? That's number one. Number two, this has nothing to do with Christians anyway. Shut the fuck up. It's a scene depicting Dionysus, the Greek god of wine. It's not the Last Supper. The fuck do you mean? What is this shit? Christians don't give a shit broadly about this stuff either. It's like right-wing losers who care. Anyway, do you understand though? When I had a conversation with Christian Walker and he like started chirping about trans people and like really the vibes up, one of the first things I did was to immediately be like, why do you care about this so much? You care about this more, and you've heard me say this time and time again, you care about trans people as a transphobic person more than trans people do. You constantly have it in your mind, okay? You constantly have trans on the mind. That's like literally the only thing you talk about and the only thing you think about. And you're tapped into like any movement happening in the trans space when they're marginal. Like they're literally such a minuscule percentage of the population, and you're constantly attacking them non-stop. And to me, that's just odd. That's an odd thing to do, especially when you're like trying to hit that on the angle of like, you know, sports, like athletes, like high school athletes and shit like that. This is not a thing that you would ever personally bring up in any other circumstance. As a matter of fact, most people that do that are the same people that make fun of women's sports. And we saw that with Brittany Griner, for example. And I think it's good to just, it's a very Bill Burr style way to deflect. To just be like, why? Why do you care about this? Like, what does this do to you? Okay? What does this do to you? And the same principle applies here as well. Why the fuck are you so mad? It's art, dude. It has nothing to do with you. You know, look away. Turn the TV off if you're that butthurt. Okay? It's not even about you. This has nothing to do with Christianity in general. And you're just being really sweaty for no reason. And you're trying to be controlling for no reason. Americans despise that shit, okay? They despise moralizing, and they despise people who are what? Iran is some of the French ambassador, the offensive representation of Jesus Christ during the Olympic ceremony. Prove this is a right-wing issue. Iran is some of the French ambassador. Yeah. Maybe the MAGA, maybe that's why like MAGA cons, MAGA conservatives, or sorry, MAGA communists will choose to be angry about this as well. That's another great take, actually. AHX introvert. When a trans person is murdered, it gets wide news coverage. Most normal people look at that and go, wow, that's bad. Not like right-wing weirdos who celebrate the murder. The hyperfixation on trans people just turns normies off. They don't care and have other more important things to deal with. Exactly. Exactly. That is actually a phenomenal distinction to make between someone who is like so locked in on insane right-wing sentiment in an echo chamber versus like the average right winger. That's why in terms of the trans issue, I always talk about like how the normative position in society broadly is that most people are definitely transphobic, right? And everyone knows this. Trans people know this. Trans people themselves have internalized transphobia before they come to terms with their gender, right? Like it's a very normal thing. It's unfortunate, but it is the reality, right? But most people also simultaneously are not constantly thinking about trans people because they're like, why the would you do that? Like, why would you do that? Why would you regularly be like, what are trans people up to? And then they also like weirdly deify trans people where they're like, trans people are like the best athletes of all time. They're so good. They're so good. They're so good at being athletes. And that's why we have to deal with them. We have to deal with them. Everyone could be trans at any given moment. And it's like, dude, you just broke your own brain. Like, why did you do this to yourself? Just let people live, you know, be normal. And once that advocacy, once those opinions turn into like a legislative agenda, then comes restrictive legislation, like anti-trans legislation that was born out of the trans panic in these past 4 years at the state legislatures, like in places like Ohio, where they started doing like penis inspection day, right? Which hasn't been really implemented as far as I understand, but like was a bill that they passed. That kind of shit actually harms cis girls significantly more than trans girls. Okay? Like, obviously, it has an outsized way of hurting trans people. That's the whole point. But there's like 4 trans people that are competing in high school athletic competitions. There are a ton of cis girls that are participating in it, and now they get to do penis inspection day. And this is something that Republicans don't comprehend or think about until it happens. It's just like the abortion conversation. Republicans were on board. They thought that this would not harm them. Okay? They never comprehended a world in which like maybe their daughter might need to get an abortion or their wife might need to get an abortion after trying to carry a pregnancy to term but having an ectopic pregnancy. And now that shit is restricted and doctors are too scared to offer this medical service. All of a sudden, it becomes your problem. That problem comes to your goddamn doorstep. And now you're like, oh, who would have thought that at the top of the hour, there's a 3-minute ad break? Who would have thought? Before you know it, you're staring down the barrel of that 3-minute ad break. And you're thinking to yourself, maybe I should have. Oh, did I already serve it? I didn't. I forgot to serve it. So I'm going to serve it now. I guess I segued it and I forgot to run it. So I'm running it now. Double baited. Here's the 3-minute ad break now. Okay.
You might have.
Let's talk about the DEI narrative before we move on. Because I got some other stuff. We're going to talk about Israel-Palestine as well. We're going to talk about John Oliver covering Israel and calling what Israel's doing a genocide and how we got here. But before we do that, let's wrap this up with the DEI narrative.
I've heard the phrase DEI recently. It's the right's new descriptor for Kamala Harris.
DEI got us Kamala Harris as a vice president.
She is a DEI candidate.
She has proven to America why DEI doesn't work.
Now, this kind of talk is nothing new for the vice president. Throughout Harris's career, she's been accused of sleeping her way to the top, playing the race card, and lacking qualifications because of her race and gender. She even has her own birther conspiracy theory. But while those attacks might play well on Fox News or Steven Crowder's show,
she's like a biracial werewolf. Just
I've noticed she started wearing
straightening.
that kind of overt racism is a bit much for a general election. So instead, right-wingers have taken to spamming their new favorite acronym when talking about Harris.
People get mad when you say Harris.
Well, let's be real. Some Republicans have dialed it back a little bit and saying DEI. Others, of course, are doing this. Steven Crowder fell off after beating his pregnant wife. Now he's posting this shit. Cringe. Kamala cosplays as a black candidate. I wish I could say that this is a new direction of racism for Steven Crowder, but it's pretty normal Steven Crowder stuff. Typical. How are his numbers nowadays? I don't know. I can't count that low. I forgot. He has fallen off so abysmally, so spectacularly. And we'll talk about that in a second.
Is the hood ornament of DEI.
Just wanted to show you where he's at, though.
Kamala's in the White House is because of the DEI deal Biden cut with Bernie to seal the nomination.
She very well might be the first DEI president.
Now, even with the euphemism, Republicans know this isn't a winning message. In fact, GOP leadership told lawmakers to stop making race comments about Harris. But even if they stopped calling her a DEI vice president today, the label has stuck in the current lexicon. And whether you heard it from Newsmax, Ted Cruz, or your boomer uncle, the implication is the same. DEI is black, or gay, or feminine, or disabled, or poor.
This woman who is literally a DEI hire.
The point is, DEI is the right's latest dog whistle, the alphabetical successor to CRT, ESG, and SJW. When said to the right audience, DEI means replacing white men with black women, hardworking farmers with communist drag queens. It's probably gonna make your kid gay, or at least a Chappell Roan fan. DEI is everything your estranged father is terrified of, but with a corporate sounding label so he can say it in public.
What does that sound like? The witch trials.
Dude, Buttfeld needs to stop trying to drip out, okay? You're not. It's not working. Stop. Stop trying to be drippy, dog.
Except they replaced drowning with racial justice. You die by DEI either way.
Earlier this month, I talked about how the right would struggle if Kamala Harris ran for president. So this week for Mother Jones, I'm going to dive into what DEI actually is, its real definition, what it means to Republicans, and how it's evolved from previous dog whistles. In reality, DEI stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion. It often refers to inclusion policies, like the ones you'd see at companies or at a school. These can relate to someone's gender, age, sexual orientation, disability status, and a ton of other personal identifiers, i.e. diversity. The goal of this idea is to create an equitable playing field by accounting for institutional discrimination and disadvantage to give everyone the same chance at opportunity. Of course, this would include every person. Affirmative action was one of the first DEI-type policies. Title IX could also fall into this category. So while the term DEI is more recent, the idea is not. Simply put, don't discriminate against someone's race, gender, sexual orientation, or whatever else it would be dickish to hate. So that's what DEI originally meant, or at least what it was supposed to mean. But now it's in the hands of right-wing assholes. So like Pepe the Frog, fedoras, and the OK symbol, these losers have perverted another innocuous thing. Now to people like Tucker Carlson and Charlie Kirk, here's what DEI means. Woke society has prioritized skin color and sexual orientation over actual skills. This means a lot of jobs are being filled by incompetent candidates, who are somehow always prioritized over straight white men. Funny how that works. Oh, you have a black surgeon? Yeah, you'll probably die on the table. A woman is piloting your flight? I mean, I'd be worried. Oh, and if your law school just fell in the rankings, remember, it's the gays' fault. The really convenient part about all of this is you can apply it to anything, for any reason, without any proof.
That's why it works so perfectly. They did it, bro. They did this with Boeing. Like, Boeing plane doors were flying off. They were like, oh, it must be a gay black pilot that dropped the plane. It's like, no, man. No, the door blew off. Like, how are you saying it's a woman black pilot and that's their fault? We never punish people for hitting that line, by the way, which is odd. Like, the very same supposedly centrist drama farming losers that routinely try to farm hatred off of my coverage over Israel-Palestine, despite not having a like any singular opinion on the matter beyond like Hasan's coverage is bad. He lies all the time, like farming these like insane videos off of it. I don't hear them ever covering this shit. And the worst part is I wasn't even wrong on my coverage with Israel Palestine. As a matter of fact, every single thing I said was correct, and I've been vindicated into oblivion. Odd stuff overall. Israel's foreign minister is calling on NATO to expel Turkey. Who the fuck are you, bro? Who the fuck are you? What do you mean? Bro, you can't be outside the club. You can't be hating from outside the club. You're not in the club. What do you mean? Anyway, let's continue.
Especially the bad stuff. Let's just say, totally hypothetical, a ship crashed into a bridge in a major American city, tragically killing 6 and destroying a major route for highway and maritime traffic. Let's just say that happened. Sure, maybe it was because there was an electrical problem with the boat, so it couldn't stop. But what if we just blamed it on DEI instead?
It's time for autumn in
Easier?
Palestine.
A train derails. DEI. Crypto bros crash a bank. DEI. Boeing spends years prioritizing profits over passenger safety. DEI. But this tactic is nothing new. Remember 3 years ago when CRT was all the rage? Or 2 years ago when it was ESG? And grooming was pretty big last year. All of those words are synonyms for everything the right hates. They're dog whistles, or phrases that mean something different depending on who's listening to them. You hear DEI and you probably think of your job's HR department. But for your QAnon uncle, DEI is an activation phrase to send the most unhinged memes in the family group chat.
You die by DEI either way.
The right loves to use dog whistles, especially as society advances and becomes more inclusive and less.
I love that there's like a gaming version of this too, the ESG stuff, or what was it, Baby Mama Gaming or whatever? The one that like Asmongold has covered before and that Lolly YouTuber loves, that Lolly VTuber. I talked about Sweet Baby Inc., Grums, all those charlatans on the right. Baby Mama Gaming, Lamau. I'm sorry, bro. I like, excuse me for not remembering what flavor of the month the right is like getting fake mad at. You know what I mean? But yeah, their version is the ESG shit. They're like, yeah, BlackRock is making games gay. How do you know so much about lolly creators? Bitch, you think I want to know? Blah, blah, Hasan is right. Blah, blah, blah. I can objectively predict the future. God, we get it. You're a loser. Are you okay, chatter? This is a not Joe Biden spy. I'm joking. Chatter got bored. 33 months. I haven't responded to them. Anyway, where the were we? Let's finish off this DEI video.
Welcoming to bigotry. A really good example of this is Richard Nixon's Southern strategy. Republican strategist Lee Atwater once explained that by 1968, using the N-word on the campaign trail would actually hurt you for the first time in, the history of the country. So instead of having a less racist agenda, Republicans just had to use more abstract terms like states' rights and forced busing. They weren't saying the slur, but they still got the message across to their supporters. These phrases have evolved over time. Welfare queens, globalist elites, Barack Hussein Obama, but they all evoke the same feeling, a hostility towards an other. And DEI is just the latest addition to this long, shitty trend. Because sure, you can hold 6 elected offices. You can have an entire law career before that. You can even be the vice president of the United States. But if you just add those 3 little letters, DEI, it is instantly invalidated by the assertion that every single one of your accomplishments is because of how society treats your race and gender, rather than despite it. I'm working with Mother Jones this election, creating weekly video content.
I don't understand the Asmongold. Hey, he got some decent takes. I agree. The one about the watching the lolly VTuber was just shocking to me in general, or the sweet baby mama takes that he had. I think Asmongold shines in unique moments and with unexpected takes. This community yells at me all the time for saying that. Sweet Baby Mama, Sweet Baby Inc. is a consulting firm that gamers decided was like making games woke and gay. We should stop talking about Sweet Baby Inc. and start talking about Sweet Baby Dog. Baby Dog. This clip is pretty funny. Okay, JD Vance complaining, blah, blah, blah. Who gives a shit? Suck my dick. All right. Stop talking about Sweet Baby Inc. and start talking about Sweet Baby Mamas, Lamau. I agree. And wait for you and Asmongold's monthly 3-hour chat. We should do that soon. I'm down. What is this? Stellar Blade will be the downfall of Sony.
I pledge to sign the petition because my rights have been violated.
I pledge to sign the petition. The PS5 is basically the Auschwitz of game consoles.
First, they wouldn't release Dead or Alive Extreme 3. Then they made the main girl in Star Wars ugly. It is happening again.
Somehow, the social studies warriors return.
Now, Sony and woke consulting firm Sweet Baby Rays have...
Okay, dude, this is a joke. It's a joke, but like it follows the truth a little too closely. So for the uninitiated who might have like paid a little bit of attention, they think that it's real because the reality is that is what they were doing. Anyway, no, we're not going to do that right now. I don't care about this.